So in this video, we're going to take a look at proportions. And if you haven't seen the video on ratios yet, you should probably watch the one on ratios first and then move on to this one. Because a proportion is when two ratios are set equal to each other. Many problems dealing with scale or conversions can be solved using the proportion method. Solving proportions involves the following pattern. So we'll look at a set of two fractions set equal to each other. The first fraction, a over b, and the second one is c over d. And if these two fractions are equal to each other, this is a proportion. In order to solve for any one of these values, so if you can imagine that either a, b, c, or d is the unknown value, in order to solve for any one of them, then we should set cross products equal to each other. And so let's take a look at that. This is one cross product, a times d. Product means multiply. So a times d is AD, and we're going to set it equal to the other cross product, b times c. Some people just say cross multiply here. So you're cross multiplying, but you are setting those two values equal to each other. So in a sense, you're getting rid of the fractions in your ratios. All right. Once they are set equal to each other, then you just isolate the unknown value by dividing by its coefficient. So to solve for a, for example, if it was the unknown, a is being multiplied by d. So in order to isolate a, we must divide by d on both sides. So d will cancel, leaving only a. So a is equal to bc over d. And generally, what I try to remember when I am solving for, because the unknown can come in any one of these four areas. If I'm solving for, let's do a different one this time, c, multiply the two values that are across it and divide by its diagonal. So c would be equal to AD over b. Same pattern works for all the others. All right, so let's take a look at some examples using this proportion method. In the first one, we're just going to show how these two fractions can be shown to be equal to each other using the proportion method. We will set cross products equal to each other. 6 times 2 is equal to 12 times 1. And that becomes 12 on the left side, 12 on the right side. 12 is definitely equal to 12. Okay, in the second one, we're going to solve for the unknown value x, that is the numerator over 32, to make an equivalent fraction to 3/4. And so this is how many 30-seconds are equal to 3/4. And so we will set cross products equal, and I generally begin with the product that involves my unknown. So I will do 4 times x first. That puts it on the left-hand side. And then we will set the other product equal to it. 3 times 32. I've just written it out. You don't have to write it if you're going to do that part in your head. That leads us to 4x equals 96. And then to isolate x, we divide by the coefficient of x. 4 is known as the coefficient, numerical coefficient of the variable x. Divide by the coefficient. So 4x divided by 4 and 96 divided by 4, x is equal to 24. That means that 24 over 32 is equivalent fraction to 3/4. The same thing can be done even if the terms of the fraction are not integers. So these values, 12.26 over 4.18 is equal to 8.12 over what number? So now my unknown is in the denominator on the right-hand side. Again, if we use the same pattern, we set cross products equal to each other, and I begin with the cross product that involves the variable. So that is right there, 12.26 times x, and set that equal to 4.18 times 8.12. So 12.26x is equal to 33.9416. Now I didn't do any rounding there. That's exactly what came up on the calculator. If it's a lot longer, then save a few more decimal places than you will want for your final answer, just so you don't get rounding errors. Next, we must always divide by the coefficient of x. In this case, that is 12.26. So 33.9416 divided by 12.26 is equal to 2.77, and there is some rounding there. I decided to round my answer to 2 decimal places, just like the values in the original question. Here's another example. Sam can build 5 birdhouses in one day. How many birdhouses can he build in 4.5 days? So I will set up a ratio with 5. We'll have 5. We'll do the birdhouses in the numerator, the number of birdhouses, and in the denominator, the number of days. 5 birdhouses in one day. And that'll be equal to, how many birdhouses can he build in 4.5 days? So we have to decide over here where the 4.5 goes. And if we have days in the denominator, then we must put days in the denominator down here. And the number of birdhouses is then our unknown in the numerator. Okay, so let's now solve. And if I set cross products equal, 1x, or just x, is equal to 5 times 4.5. So x is equal to 22.5. So he can build 22.5 birdhouses in 4.5 days. So 22.5, I suppose if he stops halfway through building the birdhouse, he will have that much done after 4.5 days. All right, so now it's time for you to practice. Pause the video and practice these 3 questions that I have here. And then when you turn it back on, I will take them up. So taking a look at the first one, if we set cross products equal to each other, 4x equals 1 times 64, which is 64. X is equal to 64 over 4, which is equal to 16. All right, that one worked out evenly. The next one, we're solving for x down here. So we should write 13 times x is equal to 6 times 20. Or 13x is equal to 120. And so then x, we must divide both sides by 13. X is equal to 120 over 13, which is 9.2. We're going to round to 1 decimal place. If I'm ever particular about what I want you to round to, I will just let you know, especially for Blackboard assignments, it'll be important. Otherwise, you just round to whatever amount that you happen to need. So a construction company can build 5 houses in 9 weeks. How many weeks will it take them to build 17 houses of the same houses at this rate? So set up the proportion and then solve it. So you should have the houses, the number of houses, and the time, or in weeks. All right, so if we set up that ratio, where there is one ratio that is 5 houses in 9 weeks. Then, equivalent to that, on the other side of the proportion, how many weeks will it take them to build 17 houses? So we want to put the number of houses, 17, over here, and the number of weeks for that is our unknown. So we will solve it. Okay. Alternatively, you could do number of houses and then weeks over this way. So we would do 5 houses in 9 weeks, 17 houses in X weeks. You'll see if I do cross multiply and divide that we both get the same thing. All right, so going back to here, 5 times x, 5x is equal to 9 times 17, 153. And so x is equal to 153 divided by 5, which is equal to 30.6. All right, 30.6 weeks to build 17 houses at that same rate. And notice I've set this one up in a sort of a vertical way, whereas these ones were set horizontally with equivalent amounts. And that's what I mean. You can do either, because if you notice what happens when we look at the cross products in this one, 5x equals 9 times 17. It's exactly the same. You just don't want to get them crossed, okay? So there's your practice. There are some homework questions posted, so go ahead, give them a try, and thanks for watching.